here with Pilates Thread. Today we are going to talk about the overall positioning of your body in neutral, and we're going to talk about it in various different positions. First thing we're going to do is start about a standing neutral. So if I am turning profile to you guys, my normal posture would be an anterior tip. I would probably lock my knees out, and you could see this large lumbar curve that I've got. Now, in order to understand a true neutral position, think of your pelvis as a bowl, okay? Now, you would not have a bowl that was uneven, right? So I'm going to take my hands onto my hips, so to speak, and I'm going to drop my tailbone down and bring my hips ever so slightly. It would appear to be forward. It's actually back towards the back chain of my body. It is a small posterior movement. I'm not saying a posterior tuck, but because I'm an anterior tip naturally, I'm going to have to drop my tailbone down and bring my hips backwards. That would put me in a standing neutral. I still have a large lumbar curve, but this makes my spine happy. Another thing that you want to remember is bony landmarks. A neutral position is where the hip bones and the pubic bone are on the same plane. So if I'm in my natural stance, my hip bones are actually hanging out over my pubic bone almost like a roof. So I would need to bring them in alignment, soften my knees a little bit, standing neutral. Now from there, you could refer back to the video that Joe has posted about the connectivity of those abdominals and core muscles. Now, the second movement we're going to talk about, second position we're going to talk about, I guess I should say, would be seated. I'm going to bring the camera with me a little bit, drop it down here, and I'm going to hope that you can see me seated. Let me bring it down a little bit further there. There we go. Now, when we sit with our legs out in front, most of us are automatically in a posterior tip, dumping into that lumbar, correct? Why? The hamstrings are too tight, and they are drawing us under with the pelvis. They're pulling us under. So I'm going to bend my knees a little bit. I'm going to put my hands behind my knees, and then I'm going to bring my pelvis up into neutral, right? Hip bones, pubic bone on the same plane. And then I will test the waters to see if I could straighten my legs and maintain. So what I feel when I do that is a lot of core activation to leave me there. If you're wondering what the difference would be, if I were to straighten my legs, I could roll myself under. Now I drop substantially shorter, right? I don't need to be any shorter than I already am. So I want to keep that spine really active. Another thing you want to remember as well is what your ribs are doing. You don't want your ribs to pop at any point in time. That means that you've got to keep your shoulder girdle down and your ribs down and connected. Those are going to be get a lot of help from your external obliques, right? They're those superficial abdominal muscles right up here by your rib cage. Third position, I'm going to go into let's see if I can put this back over here without making y'all dizzy, into an all four position leading into a plank. Now I am going to post another video just about the plank in itself, of how to move from that connective neutral position in a plank position and take it into a push-up, whether you're looking for a fitness level or a back strength, whatever it might be. That's going to be a different video. But let's talk about the overall position of all fours. So similar to standing, if I'm on all fours, number one, I've got to make sure that my hands are directly underneath my shoulders. Now let's clarify that. You want to make sure that if you just run those thumbs out by your hips and then up, we tend to get a little narrow, which would pinch us in through your scapula, your collarbones, and we don't want that. And what it does to your scapula is that it rounds your upper back. So hands are actually a little wider than you think. Your thumbs are right there on the outskirts of your shoulders. Now, knees have to be right underneath the hips. Now, a couple of things can happen here. We can let our spines go, right? There's your anterior tip. Or you could round your upper body and drop down to the tailbone. We've got to get those hip bones and pubic bone on the same plane. Now remember, I still have a large lumbar curve no matter what, even when I am in neutral. So I get my neck in alignment, because remember, the neck is a part of the spine and that cervical vertebrae. shoulder blades down my back, and there I am. As you can see, I still have the lumbar curve. I'm not trying to change the bones. I'm trying to make it possible for the muscles to connect and make my spine as happy and as healthy as possible. Yay. Moving that into the plank. There's really no change whatsoever other than you lengthen your levers, right? So what happens in the plank is that we get too low or we get too high or we do something crazy with our heads. We've got to get everything in that alignment. Now, you are a straight line, so to speak, from the base of the skull down to the heels, right? So you got to make sure your head is not down or up. It's in alignment and your shoulder blades are down. And once again, hip bone and pubic bone are on the same plane. That is a big one. Think about that. I use the pelvic bowl reference a lot with my clients because it's something everybody knows what a bowl looks like. So the less technical you get, the more likely they will be to understand what you're saying. All right, so I'm bringing the camera back here because I'm going to lay down onto my back. This is where it gets kind of crazy. Let me scoot back a little bit. I hate that because I want you to be able to see the curvature of my spine. Now, anytime we're in this position, and by the way, I'm going to put another video up that will talk about the supine neutral position as it moves forward into a crunch, all right, and how to maintain that position. So I'm going to try to get my arms out of the way. So normally when we lay down flat with our knees bent, we tuck our tailbone under instantly and feel that we have to have the connectivity with our spine along the edge of the mat or whatever you're laying on. I'm laying on a rug in my dining room. Anyway, my hip bones and my pubic bone once again have to be on the same plane. Now, if I'm tucked under, my hip bones are much lower, substantially lower, especially for me because I have such a large lumbar curve. I have to get them on the same plane. So that means I'm not going to use the word arch my back, but I need to get my spine in its happy place, right? So now my hip bones and my pubic bone are on the same plane. But if I can get you to see it, my whole hand, for the most part, fits up underneath my lumbar curve. Now, it seems an illogical thing to do because my back has some space between it and the mat, but it's not. My spine is in its happiest place. Now I've got to get my rib cage down and connected, but there I am, hip bone, pubic bone on the same plane. Now, when I have taught this to people before, I have used, think that a glass of water would sit on that triangle between the hip bones and the pubic bone, and it wouldn't spill. Of course it's going to spill. It's not going to be stable there, right? Don't try that. And the reason I say that is because I've had people come back and say, hey, I tried that. My water totally spilled. Well, of course it's going to spill. Anyway, you want to have that level plane. So like I said, normally when you lay down, you're going to automatically, it is like a complete phenomena. It's just muscle memory that we tuck our tailbone under and imprint our spine completely to the mat. Try your best to get this going and to get that neutral position. So a couple things to recap. Hip bone, pubic bone on the same plane, all right, no matter what position you're in. Secondly, think of it as a bowl. Your bowl needs to be level. So it's the AIS and the PSIS, right? Have to be level. And that is a great way to think about it. Remember, too, that ribs need to be down and connected, not to the point where you pull them down so much that it tugs your tailbone up underneath you. So they have to be down and connected. A nice, simple little breath and inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth a lot of times will do that for you. And you can feel the ribs moving down towards the belly button. All right, so remember, here comes a video at some point in time from me with the plank as you stay neutral and connected as it moves into the push-up, and a crunch from the supine neutral position. All right, I hope everybody is doing well out there. Another week of quarantine for everybody. Keep moving, and we would love to hear your feedback. See you soon.